Leslie, I didn't have an enemy in the world. You meet Leslie, you love Leslie.
Welcome back to Etalk, Eric. It's so great to see you always.
Will and Trace.
Will and Trace.
Again.
So when I first pitched it, it was a lukewarm reception, but I feel like
No,
around.
it's sticking with me now. I think I've already got the whole pilot mapped out in my head.
You've had a busy day. I saw you on Marilyn's Instagram earlier today.
Yes, I adore Marilyn. It's great to have a thing to talk about that I'm excited about, so I can visit all of my pals in the journalism department.
And I want to talk about Drinkwater, but I also want to talk about, because I was today years old, to find out you were an intern on Chum.
Yeah, I was 15, and I was part of this youth group, and the guy that ran it, older guys, but 30, but he worked in marketing at Chum AM. So he got me this summer job, and Steve Anthony was the DJ.
Amazing.
And,
what were your responsibilities?
I basically had to hand tapes to the guy who would put them in the thing. But what was really interesting at the time to me was how they catalog everything. That Canadian content, which was very big back then. CanCon was yellow dots, and the hottest songs of the week were yellow or orange dots, and the black dots at the back were all the songs that eventually get rotation. But, I mean, that was the time when Canadian music was finally getting played a lot. It was Trooper and Loverboy and
Corey Hart.
Whack and Corey Hart. So I think that we were the first generation that got as much Canadian music as we had American.
I love that we're talking about music because I loved Drinkwater. I loved your performances. I loved the cinematography. I loved the soundtrack.
Yeah, the soundtrack.
I was actually crying during the Corey Hart Never Surrender run scene without giving anything away. It was such a beautiful coming of age story. It was truly Canadian, but yet universal.
Yeah.
So what was it about this project that really appealed to you?
Well, it was happening during COVID, so it was amazing just to get away to a small town, Penticton, BC, where we could really shoot and enjoy the outdoors. It's stunning. If you've never seen Penticton, this movie shows it. Our director Steve Campanelli, really with drones and everything, has really made this movie look very expensive and lush, even though it's not. It's a little coming of age story, as you say. It's a father and son story. Drinkwater is the last name of Hank and Mike. I'm Hank, and I'm that sad dad that never got out of town. My wife left me, and my claim to fame was once I was the backup goalie for the Penticton V's. And but my son is trying to desperately get out, at least from under my shadow. And so it's a really funny. Daniel Doheny, who plays Mike, is so good.
So good.
And my son saw this and said, God, he's more like your son than I am. Because we look a little alike.
Actually looked alike.
And he started to pick up on stuff I was doing, because he's a great improver, and he would just sort of take mannerisms. And there's a few scenes, there's one in the grocery store that I just loved. It still makes me laugh when I see it.
Laughed and cried, like literally. I checked all the boxes for me. I was going to ask you about the dynamic with Daniel, but you just did that. One of the characters that I think was uncredited was your mustache. Really? I mean, it was Freddie Mercury, but it was like also the perfect hockey mustache.
Appropriately Canadian, it's Burton Cummings.
Oh, it's Burton.
As soon as I read this part, I thought, this guy is my wife's uncle or my wife's brother. I know exactly how he talks, but he's going to need Burton Cummings' mustache. And big aviator frames. And I drew a picture of it. And the first Zoom I had with the director to sort of discuss the character, I said, I want to look like this. And I do. I mean, we made it happen.
And you made it work.
Yeah.
You know, this movie is, like I said, it's a universal story, but it's really filled with so much Canadiana.
Yeah.
The hockey, the Tim Hortons, even your name in the credits on a hockey
Well,
stick.
the credit sequence at the beginning is quite brilliant, and nothing CGI about it. It was just, you'll see the movie. I know you will this weekend. But it's very, very clever how it's done. And this is a tribute to small town Canada, and to the point where, I mean, the big reveal, I hate to give it away, but it does involve a Zamboni.
Okay, so the Zamboni, nothing more Canadian than the Zamboni. Had you ever been on a Zamboni before?
I'd never been on a Zamboni, and I was excited about it, but what was the funny part was seeing the crew, the entire BC crew, just like staring, like I was eating the most delicious steak, and they all wanted a bite. They couldn't believe that I got to ride the Zamboni. Like they've been dreaming about it their whole lives.
It's iconic.
Yeah.
Like as somebody who grew up in Pickering, you know what I mean?
True.
Going to the hockey rink, or my son played hockey and all those things. There's something mystical about a Zamboni. You know, when the Zamboni comes out, it means good things.
It weighs more than any other vehicle in the world, and it only has one purpose.
Was it hard to navigate?
It's surprisingly easy, and I don't mean to insult Zamboni drivers out there,
but okay. Let's talk about Stephen Campanelli for a moment, because, like you said, the sweeping shots, the cinematography, the love and care that he took with this film. What was it like?
Montreal boy that has been Clint Eastwood's right-hand man, his camera operator, for 30 years. And Clint trusts him to take over half the time. So he finally is getting his hand the last few years at directing himself. And like I said, this was just a little comedy. It didn't have to look as good as it does. But Steve, the way Steve mans a camera and a crew, it's great. It was a revelation that this movie could be so big screen. You know, you make it.
So big
I mean,
screen.
I can't believe I'm sitting here talking to you, promoting a film that is actually going to be on the big screen, because I'm mostly doing television, and even when you do films these days, they end up on television. So to know that we're going to have a release this weekend at Cineplex is really exciting.
And it lends itself beautifully to the big screen. Not only the visuals, but we have to talk about the soundtrack for a minute.
Yeah.
Like I was just going, the Lover Boy, you know, the Trooper, the Corey Hart.
Yeah. When I first read the script, some of that was already in there, not all of it, but I said to him, I'm a little confused because it seems to take place in the 80s, but there's a cell phone. And he said, no, it takes place now. It's just that everything's sort of stuck in the 80s. My character is definitely stuck there for various reasons. The soundtrack, the kid, even though he's only 18, is all about Bruce Lee and Kung Fu. And
Be Like Water.
Yeah, Like Water. Everyone's a little stuck. And so the soundtrack that, as you say, kind of builds to Corey Hart is a part of that. And it's just, with an audience, you get to hear that shock of recognition of like, that's the perfect place for that Bachman-Turner Overdrive song too.
Absolutely. I'm telling you, a few times I was like sobbing a little bit. I think it was like the nostalgia, and it was the performances, and, you know, really, really beautiful performances. We talked about Daniel a little bit, but what was it like working with that talented cast?
Larisa, who is the love interest to Daniel, their chemistry was amazing. And I just adored her. I think she's going to be, I think she's going to get some notice from this. And everybody, we just had a lot of
Really great.
laughs.
Really great. I know you're booked and busy, and I don't want to keep you too long, and I don't want to end on a sad note, but, you know, we're so sad to hear about the passing of Leslie Jordan. And, you know, I follow you, and I saw your post, and let's celebrate. You know, what is his legacy to the world?
Well,
my condolences.
Thank you. And Leslie, I didn't have an enemy in the world. You meet Leslie, you love Leslie. And he's been in the business forever. You know, it wasn't, he had done so many things prior to Will and Grace, but that character just became instantly iconic. But I think his real legacy is what he did during the pandemic, because he's living alone, and it's like, I'm not going to be alone. I'm going to use this technology that, and he was so funny on all those Zooms and everything. He was really, he became a star unto himself, independent of Beverly Leslie, and he's had a few shows since. I think he went 30 years too soon. It's really insanely tragic, but at least I know, and we all know, that Leslie had a great time the last 10 years of his life. He got all the attention and the laughter and the love that he deserved.
And although I never had I was never fortunate enough to meet him, during the pandemic, when he pulled out the baton, I was finally able to say to my mom, okay, Mom, you weren't, you know, I'm not upset with you anymore for taking me to baton lessons for 3 years in a row. He validated my baton experience.
That's hilarious.
I know,
and he
right?
was very good.
He was very good. Eric, always a joy. Congratulations on Drinkwater.
Thank you.
You know, I can't wait to see, for all of the country to see what I felt in this movie. It was just really exceptional.
Well, this weekend.
This weekend.
Go see it.
Like the video? then hit the button. Or better yet, drop us a comment. Then check out our latest videos here. And don't forget to subscribe by hitting the button here for more celebrity interviews and entertainment news.